Hi, I'm Catherine Comden, Behavior Program Manager at Willamette Humane Society. Have you ever wondered what really happens at our shelter on Turner Road in Salem? When you walk through our door to adopt a pet, what can you really know about that animal? Where do these cats and dogs come from, and how do they end up on the adoption floor? How are the animals cared for, and who oversees the day-to-day details? Today in the studio, I'm visiting with Betsy Bode, our Operations Director, and she's going to answer these questions and tell you what really happens behind the scenes at Willamette Humane Society. Thanks for joining us on this week's Pets and People. Hi, Betsy.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us and for bringing your friend.
Yes, this is Tila.
Hi, Tila. How are you doing? And so how did you end up with Tila?
Tila was adopted from the shelter I used to work at, as are all of my pets. Have been shelter pets with the exception of the first dog that we got. And there's a huge variety of animals that you can find at an animal shelter.
Yeah, everybody always thinks that, not everybody, but a lot of people think that an animal shelter is where the unwanted pets go because they're terrible.
Absolutely.
It's the pet's fault
Right.
that they're there. And obviously, I mean, who wouldn't want to end up with a cute little person like him or her, right?
Yes, and it's hard to say. You know, people have different reasons for needing to bring animals to us. Sometimes it's through no fault of the animal. So it's not because of behavior, medical reasons, anything like that. Perhaps the person lost their job and they can't afford to care for the pet anymore. Or they've been forced to move and their new home doesn't allow pets. Or the saddest one of all is when people pass away and there's no one in the family who can step up and take care of their animals for them. So statistically speaking, about 25% of the dogs that come into animal shelters are purebred dogs. So it's a wide variety from smalls to large, all different temperaments that we see coming through our doors every day. And so usually there's someone for everyone.
Right. We say come and meet your number one fan because whether you're a cat lover or a dog lover, we certainly have a number of animals to choose from.
Absolutely.
How many animals are passing through Willamette Humane's doors in a given year?
In a given year, if you include all the services we provide, it's over 8,000. And if we were including the spay-neuter clinic as well, then we'd be well over 10,000.
That's just crazy to really consider the number of animals that we have our hands on for a variety of reasons. And it might be that people are relinquishing pets or they're bringing them in to be spayed or neutered through the clinic. Are there other reasons that they come to see us?
Absolutely. We have people that come back just to visit, so we love to see our alumni. That's always a fun thing. And then we have, of course, our behavior and training program.
Behavior and training
right?
program. They come for classes
Absolutely.
to learn how to train their pet.
And then our camps. So you'll be doing camps this summer that'll involve people and their own pets.
Yeah, first time that we've ever had camps where the students get to bring their own pets. I'm really excited to be teaching that. Yes. It's going to be fun. So from the perspective of the animal coming in, let's say somebody needs to relinquish a pet for any of the reasons you stated or something altogether differently. Can you just walk us through the process? What happens from the moment they make that decision?
Well, we do managed admissions at Willamette Humane Society, and that's really the most responsible way for us to take in animals. So that does mean that we ask people to make an appointment whenever possible, and that ensures that we have the space and the care available for each one of those animals. If we don't have the space available and we start overcrowding our shelter, that leads to sickness and it leads to inhumane conditions for the animals. So it's hard for people to understand why they need an appointment, but we really do that with the best interest of the animal at hand.
Sure.
And so once people have made an appointment, they come in to surrender. We do have a pretty extensive personality profile that they fill out because we do want to know all about how the animal is in the home.
And who better to tell than the person who's been living with them, whether it's been, I know that we've had animals that have come in that have been owned in the home or in the homeless situation. We've had animals that have come in that have been living in someone's car.
Yep.
And they have reached a point where that's no longer an option for whatever reason. And I'm always fascinated by those stories.
Yes.
And some of our really amazing dogs come through just the most dire circumstances and then end up in front of us.
Yes.
We get the information that we can from the report of the owner, and then what happens?
Well, then our intake team works with them to make sure that they're up to date on their vaccines. They get a pretty thorough but fast health exam from them to make sure everything looks a-okay. If not, then they're going to be referred on to our veterinarian for a closer look. And with dogs, we also do a behavior assessment just to kind of see where they're at, if we think they'd be good with kids, and trying to determine what a good home placement for them would be.
Yeah, we want to make sure that everybody has a good fit, and it's always interesting to me that the animals that are coming in are there's such a broad spectrum, right? We're getting young animals and middle-aged animals and old animals and big ones and small ones, and they have different life experiences, which really makes them an individual. And it takes all of our staff really coming together, all the animal handling staff coming together to give impressions on that animal and his or her personality coming in, because they're going to be a little bit different in our hands than they were in the hands of the owner. And we're probably seeing them at one of the hardest times in their life, so the stress is a little bit higher, or maybe a lot higher, depending on that animal's attachment to his family, because it works both ways, right? You're attached to the animal and they're also attached to you. Often their owners are distraught when leaving them because maybe it was a difficult decision, and I'm so impressed with our staff and how the training is given to our staff members who are on that front line. I know at other shelters this might not have been your experience, but at our shelter we really strive for that compassionate service to the people.
Absolutely.
And understanding that they're not there because they want to be there. They're there often because they have to be there. And do you want to talk a little bit about the training that the intake team has?
Yeah, we actually have a fabulous intake staff, and they do look out for the people as well as for the pets. Compassion is such a big part of what we do, just with the animals and then of course with the people too. And I'm always thankful when someone comes to us and surrenders an animal, because that's what we're there for.
That's right.
Yeah, that's why we exist, and so we should be thankful that they trust us with their
Right.
beloved family member.
Exactly right.
I look at it as an honor that someone, trusts us enough to bring us their animal to find a placement for.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And then once that animal has become our charge and our care, I'm really excited to work with the people who are back in the kennels, behind the scenes. We have a fabulous animal welfare team who is so involved in caring for the animals, well beyond just keeping things clean and making sure everyone is fed. I mean, go ahead and brag up a little bit on them, because they're a tremendous team.
They are, but as they say, it takes a village. So it's so many people. It's not just our animal welfare team, but our volunteers.
Oh, true story.
Right? I mean, our volunteer corps, without them, we would not exist.
Right.
And so it's so many hands involved, from the point of intake to the daily care, the feeding, the grooming, the walking, our open paw program, and making sure that the dogs and cats are being enriched daily, in addition just to having those basic needs provided for. And so it's just such a testament to our staff that our animals are fairly well adjusted. We do have a few cases we have to put some extra work into, but for the most part, our animals are very loved, taken care of, and they truly become part of our family.
It's absolutely true. And some of these longer term animals that we've had in the shelter, when they get adopted, we all go around and we're high-fiving each other and taking pictures, and people are crying, and we're just so glad for the animal.
It's bittersweet.
It is bittersweet. It's like we're giving up our own pet to
Right.
go where they need to go, and we all know that going in, but it's always so exciting to see that match happen. And those are often volunteers too that are doing those, they're adoption ambassadors who are making those that time to meet with the potential adopter and giving them the time with the pet, making sure that's a good fit, asking all the questions, and then bringing them to the staff and going, we think we have a match here, can you help that happen?
Right.
Yeah, it's a really neat thing.
Yeah, so at that point, that's usually when the adoption staff takes over, another fabulous team that we have, and they're going to go over everything that we know about the animal from prior to coming to us, as well as everything we've learned while they were with us, and then do everything they can to set that family up for success, because that's our ultimate goal. We love visiting with those animals alumni when they come back, but we would hope that we don't have to see them again as another run through the shelter. So what can we do to set up for success in their new home?
Right. That's been something that I've been amazed with at Willamette Humane, is the transparency with the information that we have. We hide nothing. We allow the potential adopter to have complete access to our behind-the-scenes notes about the animals, and I've seen our adoption staff going through just pages of information to the point of the person going, okay, I think I get it. But we want to make sure that everybody has everything that we know about the animal is shared with that potential adopter, so that they can then make great decisions going home about how to support that pet.
Absolutely. So the things that we might discover, dogs, especially with behavior, and perhaps we've noted that they have separation anxiety or that they're reactive on a leash. And so we're going to possibly provide them with additional training classes after adoption, even, to make sure that we do everything we can, again, for that to succeed, because that's really what our ultimate goal is.
Absolutely. So in the time that you've been with us at Willamette Humane, what are some of the main things that you see that's different here than maybe other shelters in the community or further nationwide? Because you came from a long ways away.
I did. I came to Salem from Duluth, Minnesota, where I was a programs manager at the Humane Society there. I've been in animal welfare for over 8 years, and I kind of came to it in a roundabout way. It wasn't something that I set out to be in the field and solicited it. The company that I worked for, which was an amazing company, was bought out. And in order to keep my job, we would have had to relocate to Nebraska. And wasn't real high on my husband and I's list of places we were really excited about moving to. And so I decided I was going to take a little time off from working and wait until the right thing came along. I had spent my years making money for other people, and I decided that wasn't really for me anymore. I really wanted to somehow give back in the service that I did. And so when a job opened up with the local Humane Society, I was very excited and thrilled when I was given the opportunity, and I sleep so well every night knowing that the efforts that I make are for the animals and give back to the community. And so I came about it in a roundabout way. It wasn't like I had a guidance counselor in high school who said, oh, you should be in animal welfare. And part of that too is you do go back, you think about the euthanasia, you think about the injured animals, you think about the abused animals, and it's like, I didn't know if I could do that on a day-to-day basis. But once you are involved in that world, you have the support of your coworkers and volunteers all around you. It becomes easier to handle that, and we celebrate all those success stories that we have, and it's a pretty amazing thing. Then at the SAWA conference last fall, I met B.J. Anderson, and when I saw the position open here, it was pretty exciting. I applied, and we moved halfway across the country to be here.
Well, we're really thrilled that you're here.
One thing I am delighted to have is a behavior and training program and department. That is such a difference from where I came from. We did our best as individual staff members, but none of us were certified. None of us had specific training necessarily in different behavior modification methods. So to have that is pretty amazing.
Right, it is exciting, and obviously that's my job. So of course I'm supportive of it. But just to bring that full circle, we also have a veterinarian on staff who is equally supportive of behavior and behavior modification and the medicine behind that, so that we're able to offer the pets the best chance possible. And so it really is back to the village. We have everybody on board with the different protocols that we're prescribing for the animals, helping them to succeed at their very best, and then providing follow-up care afterwards to make sure those animals are set up for success in their homes.
And I think it's pretty amazing that we have a combination of Eastern and Western medicine.
Yes.
So we have volunteers that do massage and acupressure, and then we have the
I kind of want to sign myself in to being being an animal at Willamette Humane. Let's think about it. You get all your meals provided, you get daily walks, you get free massages, you get all this love and attention. Where do I sign up? I think I want to go on vacation. It's fantastic. Well, one of the things that designates you different from many, many other shelter administrators is that you have a special certification, and I'd like you to talk just a little bit about that.
Sure. So last fall, myself as well as BJ Anderson, who's our executive director, sat for the CAWA examination, which is Certified Animal Welfare Administrator. And that happens through SAWA, which is the Society of Animal Welfare Administrators. It is a national certification program, and you have to have a prerequisite number of years experience both in management and in the animal welfare field. And it covers just a huge variety of topics in the exam that we take for that. So it's not just looking at what you know about animal welfare and animals, but it also looks at management, and it looks at fundraising, and it looks at just this huge broad spectrum, so that we are setting our next generation of animal welfare employees up to really be well-rounded and broad-based in what they bring to their organization.
So I think that CAWA certification brings a level of professionalism that historically wasn't present in our profession.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, having a national organization that is building, like I say, that next generation of animal welfare administrators is so important. And having that well-rounded knowledge is really what is going to make our humane societies, animal shelters, rescues better in the long run. Because again, we're not just being focused on the animals, although that's the most important part of what we do, but we need to have...
Tina agrees.
Absolutely. We need to have sustainable organizations. We need to work well with our communities. We need to know how to market ourselves. You know, all of those facets are equally important.
Both you and BJ bring such a vast wealth of experience and knowledge, and both of you are continually striving for more and to bring better and better programs, better and better care for the animals. I'm just thrilled and very, very proud to be a part of this organization. It's just fantastic.
It is. I would agree with that. And as a lot of the shelters in the country, you see Willamette Humane Society evolving. So if somebody hasn't been to the shelter in 10 years, things are very different than they were. Not just in how we care for the animals, how we house the animals, how we enrich the animals, but also in our euthanasia practices. So, you know, people used to have a thought that you bring an animal to a shelter and it was going to be put down. That was just what they expected the outcome to be.
I've even had people say to me, oh, that must be horrible to work there, you know, having to deal with euthanasia. And I'm like, well, there really aren't that many, and when it does happen, it's either because the owner has specifically requested it, and usually it's because the animal is ready to go, or it's a situation where it would be almost inhumane to keep the animal alive. So could you talk just a little bit about that and why we euthanize? Because I think that's a question that's a fair question, and it's a question that comes up a lot.
Yeah. I wish I could say that it was equal for dogs and cats, but it's not. As in many northern parts of the country, we have the dog population fairly stabilized. And so our live release rate for dogs is high. It means that most of the dogs that come through our door are going to leave either as adoption candidates or they're going to be transferred to a partner organization. And so that's a great thing. It means that we can help out other communities by bringing dogs in. But cats, on the other hand, is a struggle nationwide. And it comes down to cats not being quite as valued as dogs are as far as members of the family.
Yeah.
You know, people have the free-roaming cats that, you know, quite frequently are injured. Their lifespan is certainly a lot shorter. It's you know, when you have a dog that passes away, most people go through a heavy grieving process, but a lot of times, unfortunately, for cats, it's they're just ready to get the next cat right away. And maybe it's a working cat, something like that. The relationship just isn't the same. So we'll certainly be working on that over the next few years to make sure that we have more live outcomes for our cats than our dogs. But typically the reasons that we're euthanizing animals are due to medical. And when I say medical, it's you know, got to be something that is really hard to handle. So it's not going to be a basic treatment. You know, they don't need dental work. That's something we'll obviously do, but maybe they have cancer and their outcome, you know, they are going to pass away and we're just ending their suffering for them. Or it could be behavioral, and when I say behavioral, I mean it's compound behavior problems.
Right.
So it's not just one individual behavior that they're showing, but that they have, you know, several different stacking behaviors that the average person is not going to be able to deal with.
So really, I think that actually falls under some of the compassion that we have for pet owners. And I think the question that I often bring up is this an animal you want to live with or live next to?
Right.
And if the answers to those questions are no, then we need to take a really good look at what's best both for that animal, which is not to be shuffled from place to place to place to place, having bond after bond broken, but to actually look at that as a humane outcome for him or her in the case of behavior.
Right. And we have an obligation to the community to do our best to put animals out there that are going to be safe for people and other animals to be around.
Right. I think it's really important, and I appreciate the practicality behind that, kind of a no-nonsense approach that while we would love to save every single animal, we really want the community to know that the animals that we're putting out into your homes are the best possible animals that we can find.
Yes.
And that are they're healthy and they're happy and they are social and they want to be with you, which is fantastic. But in those end-of-life decisions, I've been present for many of the euthanasias where that really was the best choice for that pet. And I am honored to say that the team members who are trained to do that provide that service in a tremendously compassionate way, and it's hard, but they allow that animal to pass without suffering or without fear and with absolute affection and trust.
Yes.
And so that's been a really amazing change from what historically has not been handled that way, not necessarily at our shelter, but at other shelters nationwide.
Sure, you go back not that many years ago, and the gas chambers were, you know, common ways of.
I just can't even imagine that.
Yeah.
And he says, "Can we talk about something else? Because that's not nearly as much fun as some of the other things." All right, Sheila, we'll move on, honey. And so, well, what are some of the standout stories since you've been with Willamette? What have you seen?
Oh, there's been so many great stories. I love the adoption stories. I love, you know, when you get to see from when an animal comes in, and you have a family that is kind of devastated to have to relinquish their pet, and then, you know, you make an internal promise to do everything you can by that animal, and then you get to see this happy outcome, and you know that you did right by their family. You know you did right by the animal. Jax was a great story. He had been there when I first started, so he predated me, and he was a dog that was in our behavior program that required a lot of extra work. He was a great dog, but he really needed some additional, you know, behavior modification. He needed additional medications to help him along at the shelter, and then he needed a pretty specific home, and so that was hard too. We knew he was going to have to wait for a long time, and then along comes the perfect home for him.
The perfect home.
Yeah, everything that was kind of on our wish list of things for him, and so those kind of stories always warm my heart.
Right.
Yeah.
One of the things I really appreciate about how we process, like how do we know who the perfect home is? We sit around, we talk every week about all of the animals in our care. Every department is represented, and we discuss, well, who are we looking for this animal, or what are their needs now? What are their most urgent needs? How can we meet those needs, and how can we promote this animal in the community?
Yes.
We have a tremendous team that comes away with a decision and says, this is what we need to do, and then it gets done.
Yes.
And then we read on Martha's blog, Adopt an Oregon Dog. We'll share that contact information. Great blog where she talks about the animals, the dogs in our care, who are available for adoption, and then it's just so fun to see the go-home pictures.
It is. It's always great, and then even more fun is the pictures we get afterwards.
Right, where they're laying on someone's lap in their living room.
Or you have a dog like Jax that we were really concerned with him being around men, and then we get photos of him sitting in his grandpa's lap, you know, licking his face. And
you go,
so,
nuh-uh. How did that even happen? Which brings us all the way back to, it's hard at the shelter, even as good as we have it. And so I think one of the main little pieces of message that I want to give you is that when you come into our shelter and you're looking at the animals who are there, go with a grain of salt. You know, they're in a hard place. You're seeing them at their most stressed. If they're able to be social in that moment, that's really, really remarkable. But those ones that are sitting in the middle of their cages, or maybe even all the way against the back of the cage going, I don't know if I can trust you yet, don't overlook those guys, because they actually may be just exactly the right pet for you. And if you have any questions, of course, there's always someone available to help you make those decisions.
Absolutely.
How can the community get involved at Willamette?
Oh, there's so many ways for the community to get involved. It starts with our volunteers, of course, so people that are able to commit to about a 6-month time period or longer. We have volunteers that have been with us for decades, which we appreciate, but volunteering is such a huge part of the help that we need, and we have any kind of opportunity available that you can think of. So whether it's doing laundry, walking dogs, socializing cats, doing data entry, helping in the spay-neuter clinic, there's just so many fabulous volunteer opportunities available. They can help us by adopting. And of course, adopting helps to free up room so we can help even more animals. They can help us by donating. We are a nonprofit and we are self-sustained with our funding, so we certainly always can welcome donations, whether that be money, whether it be you buy a few extra cans of food when you're at the store and you drop those off and donate, and then just by spreading the word about what we do. You know, it's easy for people when they've had a bad experience, they'll tell everyone.
Right.
When people have a good experience, they're sometimes a little more hesitant to do that. They just don't think about it as much. So if people have had a good experience, helping to spread the word in the community about the services we provide.
We're on Twitter, we're on Facebook, we have blogs to read, we have multiple ways. We have written publications that can be shared, lots of ways to share the information in the community.
Yeah, and we have a Pokemon Go stop right out front.
Like, oh my goodness.
Yes, so
talk about being current with the times. I love it.
We try to be, absolutely.
Well, Betsy and Tila, thank you so much for coming in today. I really appreciate your time, and it's an honor to work for you. I'm just thrilled that you're here at Willamette Humane. And I hope that you also will come visit me at Willamette Humane Society on Turner Road in Salem. Take a look at our adoptable pets. Come in and browse our pet supply store. You never know what you might find there. You might even go home with your next #1 fan.
Ready? Go. Yeah, exactly. That's great. As soon as she goes over, and then she so funny too.
Hi, buddy. Hi, honey.